Hey guys, so because Milani is sleeping, I decided that I should make a labor and delivery video for you guys, just explaining to you what happened, why I had her at 25 weeks. So I actually found out that I had preeclampsia at 24 weeks, and I was having like really bad swelling like in my feet. I'll even add a picture to the video as well. In my feet, my face, my hands, everything was swollen. And then it was getting to a point where it was so swollen that my hands were going numb. So it was very strange to me. I thought it was weird. I was still working at the time, and I just thought, oh, maybe because I'm on my feet too much, or I don't even know. Milani's dad, Fernando, he's actually the one who took me to the hospital, and then I got checked. They did a urine test, and I guess they found protein in my urine, so that's one of the signs for preeclampsia. They also were taking my blood pressure, which my blood pressure was super high. It was like 190 over 90, and it just kept getting higher and higher. Every time they would take it. So I was 24 weeks. I stayed in the hospital, I want to say, for 2 days. They gave me steroid shots and sent me home. So I was fine to go home. I went home that same day. That same night, I was having really bad headaches and pain in my abdomen. Like, it was so bad that I couldn't even sleep. I just felt very sick, like throwing up all the time, and I didn't even eat anything. I was just throwing up. I went back to the hospital around 4 a.m. and it was probably the 22nd of September. When I went back, they immediately put me on MAG, and they told me that I was going to be on bed rest. I had to get a catheter put in because I wasn't allowed to actually move or get up or do anything. I was supposed to just lay in bed the whole time and stay still because my blood pressure was through the roof. We were trying to keep Milani in for as long as possible because obviously I was barely going. I was 25 weeks at that same day. I was 25 weeks. So we were trying to keep her in for as long as possible. A few days go by. I actually had her at 25 and 3. My kidney started failing, and my body just wasn't keeping up like it was supposed to. My doctor came in, scheduled my emergency C-section at 9:50. They gave me my epidural. By 10:15, Milani had arrived on September 25th. When they gave me my epidural, it just freaked me out because the nurse that was actually giving me the epidural asked me if it was centered in my back, which I thought it was crazy to me because if she's behind me, she should know what's centered in my back, not me. I'm not even facing her way. So automatically I started freaking out and going crazy because, first of all, why would she ask me that? During my C-section, I actually passed out because I felt the pain. I kept telling them that I can feel what was happening. I kept letting them know that it was just a lot of pressure down there, but they said that was normal. But because of the pain was so bad, I actually passed out in the C-section. I woke up in the recovery room where I saw Fernando in there, and he was just letting me know that Milani was born, and that he was actually going to be going up there with her, and he was going to be leaving me. He just wanted to make sure that I was awake when he did. When I went into my regular room, it was just so much pain that I felt. I couldn't move. Like, sitting up just hurt. They told me that my daughter wouldn't make it. Milani was born 1 pound 4 ounces and 12 inches long. So being told that, I wanted to get up and see her, but because I had just had surgery within that same hour, I wasn't allowed to actually go up to go see her. So Fernando was FaceTiming me, sending me pictures, letting me know what was happening with her. Within the next 2 hours, they kept offering me pain pills or like pain medication, anything that I could take, because my pain level was so high, and it was just hurting so bad that I just didn't want to take anything, just for the simple fact that Milani was born so early. I wanted the doctors to be able to explain to me, and for me to be able to understand what they were telling me. I didn't want to be on any type of medication to where I forgot what they said, or I wasn't fully aware of what they were telling me. So I kept saying no to the medication. Probably because I had her at 10:15, so maybe by 1:30, 2 o'clock, I had asked my nurse if I can start walking because I wanted to go see my daughter. I actually got up and sat up, and I couldn't even, I was crying because it just hurt so bad to even sit up by myself. But I kept going because they wanted me to start peeing anyway, so I kept walking, being able to walk to the bathroom. Finally got that down. Then my mom took me to go walk up and down the hallway of the hospital, which I did. So then after I did that, I was able to walk right up to the NICU to go see my baby. It was actually very crazy because I didn't know anything about the NICU or about prematurity or about any type of medical lingo that they were actually explaining to me. I walked in, had to wash my hands for 2 minutes. After I did that, I looked around and I saw this pink sticker that said Palacio, and it said her birth weight, how tall she was, and what time she was born. And I walked over there, and seeing my daughter be so small was like something that I probably wouldn't wish that upon anyone. They tell you to be aware of the situation because not all premature babies actually make it, especially 25 and under. They usually try to give you the worst scenario because they don't know what can happen. I was told that she probably wouldn't make it within that same day because of how small she was. Even though she was 25 weeks and 3 days, she was measuring way smaller than that because of her birth weight. My placenta stopped giving nutrients to her, so she wasn't growing after like 23 weeks, so she was measuring at 23. So with that, we just kept saying that, everything was going to be fine. If anything did happen, then we would play it by ear. From seeing her that first time, I stayed with her. I just couldn't leave her. After everything that they were telling me, I read so much about premature birth, and I just had to be with her 24/7. They did a head ultrasound on her, no brain bleeds, which they said was very good because of how early she was and just all the complications that they had with her. She wasn't able to breathe properly by herself, so they had to intubate. So her being on a very high ventilation, it was actually scarring her lungs because it was just so much vent that she was on that it was hard for her to actually build lungs. I'll actually add a link in our description to give you guys a little more so you're able to read a little bit more about that. Because premature lungs, they're like probably this big. They're very small and they have to grow whenever the baby grows, but because she wasn't growing and the placenta wasn't helping her, her lungs just wasn't where they were supposed to be yet. So she actually was on the high frequency ventilator. We were on that with her. She had an NG tube. She actually wasn't able to feed. I think probably the 3rd day is when I started giving her breast milk. I got milk that same day that I delivered her. Actually, like the lactation nurse came in and actually got milk that same day, which was strange. But Milani didn't start eating until on the 3rd day is when they started giving her breast milk. Yeah, it was like crazy. Even thinking about it right now is crazy. After the first week, you know, they just kept telling us like, oh, prepare yourself, prepare yourself. That first week I knew right off the bat my daughter was going to be fine. Just because the first week is over. They always say that's the honeymoon stage is the first week, which it was actually true because no brain bleeds, no heart murmur, no nothing was wrong with her. After that first week was up, she started doing way better on the vent, so they would lower the vent settings on her. And then one day it just hit the fan to where they had taken her off the they unintubated her, so they put her on CPAP. This is when she was put on CPAP, so this is the first time we got to see her full face. Her oxygen levels were under 95. They actually had to re-intubate her. When they re-intubated her, they actually punctured a lung because preemie babies are so fragile that you have to be very gentle when you're intubating them, especially intubating and taking the tube out so many times. You can do something, you can puncture a lung and not even know it. Her lung actually got punctured. She was 1 month old when all this happened on Halloween of last year. They punctured her lung. She started turning purple. So this is what I was talking about, her being purple from a collapsed lung. She turned purple. She was on the highest setting that they could. It was 100% basically. So she was on 100% support from the vent, which basically she was not breathing. The vent was doing everything for her, which that's not what they were supposed to be there for. It's just supposed to be backup, but because it was doing basically all her breathing for her, they kept telling us that we needed to be there with her the whole time just in case something were to happen. Of course, we stayed with her the whole day. They actually called around to different children's hospital, which we got a room at UCSF, and we were transported that day. Milani went through a helicopter, and me and her dad drove to Frisco. Fernando next to Milani. We followed them that same day. It was just life-changing having to see your baby like that. Very difficult for any parent, especially a mom. So after we went to UCSF, they got her situated, and they started treating her right away. And it was just very scary. After that first month, though, everything started to look a little better. She started doing way better at UCSF. We were there longer than usual, because usually 25-weekers don't stay there that long, but because the difficulties with Milani, basically going to UCSF, we were a month behind. So Milani could have been doing way better than what she was doing at our old hospital that we were at, because they never handled premature babies. Milani was probably the second 25-weeker that they ever dealt with, so they weren't too sure on how to deal with the situation or what to do. So us getting moved to the children's hospital was probably the best thing that, you know, could have happened. You know, the drive sucked, but I actually started living at the children's hospital. They offer you like family house, and so I actually stayed there the whole time she was in the hospital, just because I didn't want to leave her. I wanted to make sure everything was fine. After the experience that we had for her first month, I didn't want to miss something and not be able to correct anyone. It's just a lot of information that you learn being in the hospital for 7 months. You kind of, things just kind of stick, and you kind of just know. But that's another thing too. I'll go into our NICU stay a little later in a different video. This one was just going to be for labor, like what happened with delivering her, and us being moved to UCSF. Our NICU actually story will be a little bit later when Milani is awake. Just because she's a big role in that part, why, you know, she hit all her milestones so early and or on time even, or how we're even here with her. Like, she's the main reason. But I just wanted to go over that with you guys. Remember, if you guys want to comment with any questions you guys have, or DM us on Instagram. The Instagram is PrincessMilaniNicole, so go ahead and I'll add that as well for you in the description and in the video. Go ahead and subscribe and like, and we hope to hear from you guys. Remember, you guys, it's Premature Awareness Month, so hopefully you guys learned something new.